Welcome to the Ferracuti Files. This week we are at the Historical and Scouting Museum in Ottawa, Illinois. I'm here with Mollie, who's the executive director, and who the building is finally named after.
Yeah.
About dang time. She got the recognition she deserved. I've known Mollie most of my life. Think of her like a family member, but tell everybody a little bit about who you are and how you got started here.
Oh, how I got here? Well, when this museum actually got started, it was a scouting museum. And it was a scouting museum because W.D. Boyce, the gentleman who founded the Boy Scouts of America and incorporated them in 1910, lived here in Ottawa. He's buried here in Ottawa. And it seemed a perfect place for a scouting museum. And at that point in time, I was heavily involved with the Boy Scouts of America. I was training leaders, running programs for kids, Cub Scout age kids. We did all kinds of stuff with kids. And me and my friend Chris Hasty, she did summer camps and I did like monthly activities for the Scouts, and we worked together and had a good group of people, and we did all kinds of things.
Yeah. Well, this museum is beautiful. First of all, if you live here and you haven't come down, you should definitely come down and take the time and walk through it.
Yeah.
It's incredible. There's so much history here. You don't realize how much history there is in Ottawa until you walk through this museum. But also, Mollie can tell you pretty much everything. It's funny, I don't have a ton of stuff about Grandpa Dominic. And I remember, it must have been 10 or 15 years ago when I came home, I came to Mollie and said, I don't have a lot about Grandpa Dominic. Do you have anything? And she found me like 8 pictures, and I don't even know where you found them. But she found me like 8 pictures and, some information and some things. And I have a really cool, that motorcycle picture, you found that for me. And I have that really cool picture of him riding the motorcycle. And I came to find out as a result of that picture that he actually raced motorcycles. And I did not know that.
That's cool.
That's why that picture existed. He raced motorcycles. So I don't know where that gene went because it's definitely not in my blood. But, maybe. It wasn't in Dad's either, I can tell you that. So I'm not sure. It skipped a couple generations. Maybe someday I'll have a kid who can race a motorcycle, but it's not me, that's for sure.
Wouldn't be my thing.
Yeah, it's not my thing either. It's fine. But yeah, there's so much cool history here. And if you have any, if your family's from Ottawa, this is really a neat place to come and see. Your family probably has a little bit of piece of history here. A lot of the families who've been here for a long time are represented here, and we're sitting today in front of the table I grew up. I was just telling Mollie I grew up playing dominoes on this table, and we never ate on it. Never.
No, it was for dictation. I took
he
dictation on this at your house up there for your dad.
Really?
Oh yeah, a lot of times.
He did brief on this all the time. He loved to write briefs on this table. That was his favorite.
Yeah.
So we wrote briefs on this table and played dominoes on it and drew underneath it. We'll put some pictures on up later. But I ruined this beautiful table. Mollie, you want to tell us a little bit about the table?
So the table that Alexis is talking about is this beautiful table. And the story that goes with it is W.D. Boyce, the founder of the Boy Scouts, was over in the Himalayas. And he was on a trip. And he saw this Circassian walnut tree. Must have been huge.
Yeah.
And he had the tree cut down and shipped back here to Ottawa to the piano factory, and they made this table, and I believe it's one piece.
It is one piece.
When it was moved, it was hard to move. Stevenson's transfer moved it for us. Yeah. But then the Boyce family gave me this picture of the inside of the home, and you can plainly see the table sitting in situ in the Boyce home. Now, this is the second home that Boyce had here in Ottawa. The first home that he had was in the same location, and he bought it about 1902, 1903. It had been built in about 1893 by a gentleman named Frederick Sherwood.
Yep.
He was quite an interesting man, but anyway. He bought the house from the estate, W.D. Boyce did, and then he moved into it. February the 8th of 1908, 2 years to the day before he incorporated the Boy Scouts, that house burned to the ground. And so he built the second home on the same spot. It was up on the North Bluff.
On my parents' property, coincidentally. It was pretty close, correct?
Yeah.
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 It's on the back side, I think.
Yeah.
So
if you go up the,
Goose Creek Hill.
if you go up Chestnut Street.
Yeah.
It was right up at the top there.
Right.
Yeah.
So there were 4 or 5 homes that were up by ours.
There were some gorgeous homes up there.
Yeah, and there's
Where your house was, De La Chapelle's house was next to that, and then Walter Palmer's. Walter Palmer had a house that belonged to Solomon King, King in Hamilton,
Yep.
and Rybern King Hospital, same King.
Yeah.
And his house was there. And then we had Simeon Gay's house next to that. Simeon Gay was the gentleman who had a buggy making factory here in Ottawa. And we have a buggy on exhibit that was made by his company.
And there were 2 old carriage houses.
Yeah.
On the back side. One I think that probably help lived in or somebody's help lived in. And then the actual carriage house that held all their cars was back there too. We had that. That was still up when I lived there. Listen, I ran through that old barn 1,000 times.
Yeah.
And went through all the we went on an expedition at one point, went through all the ruins of all the burned down houses. She and I were
Did
trying
you
to see
really?
if there was anything there. We walked through.
Taking pictures?
No, I don't think so. I think we were looking for treasure. We were pretty young. We were, 12.
Before digital cameras were a thing.
Yeah, I think we were thinking that we were going to really find something, and all we found were some bricks. And
Well, you
old
might
stoves.
have found things that I would consider treasures.
Well, we
Not
didn't really
money
find
things, but
all we found were bricks. We didn't find much. We didn't find like there wasn't anything left after all those fires. The fires were horrendous up there.
well, but then some of them were just torn down.
Yeah, well, that's
Walter
you
Palmer's.
could tell the difference between the foundations. The ones that burned, it was hard to find anything.
Simeon Gay's house burned.
Yeah, it was hard to find anything.
Yeah.
You could see where the foundation was at one point.
Yeah.
But you couldn't see anything else. And the one that they tore down was the one on the Goose Creek side, where Goose Creek subdivision is, the one that up the hill, right there at the top of the hill by the side of Goose Creek. There was a house right there. There was a foundation right there that we found, and that was just bricks. It was like somebody had torn it down. You could still see like the remnants of where the stove was and things, but you could tell that house was torn down. It wasn't burnt down, but there wasn't anything in it other than the old stove. So.
Your dad, I called him one time because we used to have, years ago, we had a little group of history buffs that we used to meet every now and again. And I have a thing about the old mansions. That's my bailiwick. And I wrote to your dad and I said, could we come up on your property? I'd like to see if check it out and see if the home's up there. And he said, oh yeah, anytime, yeah. So we did, but there were still, at that point, there were steps that were leading up to the old
Yep.
King
Oh, so that
Solomon
was the
King's
King
home.
house that we found. That was the King house then.
Yeah.
That's the one we were talking about. I thought it was torn down. That's the burn. Well,
Well-
there's still a part in the middle that looks like.
Well, I bet it ain't there now.
Well, I'm sure it's not there now, but that's a different conversation. For a
But there were
different day.
steps going up there, and there was a pergola. I have pictures of it originally, with the steps going up there. And
Oh, I would like
the
to see that
pergola
because we
over the
walk those
steps.
steps all the time.
Yeah. I think those are are they gone now?
Honestly, Molly, after all that, I haven't been up there.
Yeah, I know. I understand that.
Can't do it. So, because that's just not the agreement that we had. So, I'm pretty disappointed in it, but that's a different conversation. But
Yeah.
we have not gone back up. But those steps were there. I mean, they were there. We walked them. I walked them with Addison. I walked them after Addison was born. I took her up there, her daughter. I took her up there, and we walked them and hiked in the back and picked flowers back there.
Yeah.
So, they were
It
still
was cool up there.
there. It was
I've
beautiful.
got some photographs that I have that are panoramic shots, and I think they're from the North Bluff, but I can't place the houses. It's a mystery to me.
Well, I wish they had I bet they got rid of all those foundations, but if foundations are there, they could probably
Well,
figure it out.
I proposed that they set up a hiking trail up there and I furnished them with pictures of the house, of each of those houses that was there.
So you could see where
Yeah,
these were. And put the
so you
history
could
in
see
there.
kind of what it looked like up there. Didn't happen, but anyway. Anyway, the boys'
that the
home was up
story of
there.
it? Yeah, it was beautiful. So this home is incredibly beautiful. I say we were just talking about this before we started the podcast, but that ceiling is gorgeous.
Yeah, and
gorgeous.
if you look at the pictures on the other side over there, you can see where the skylights were. So it almost would appear when you walked in, this is what you saw.
Yeah, that's a beautiful home. That
Yeah.
was a beautiful home. You know, our home up there is a beautiful home too, though. That was built by Thornton.
1938.
Yeah, and I loved that house. I mean, Mom and Dad put a lot of work into restoring,
Yeah.
and you know, she redid the kitchen. The kitchen was
That house is what sparked my thing about old homes, you know.
it was beautiful.
I had never contemplated anything in Ottawa like that until I did stuff for your dad. And I used to go up there, like for your grandma we were talking about, and got in your dad's house, and I was amazed. He used to have a room in the basement, light bulb room.
Yes, he did. That's true. That is absolutely true.
It just
Organized by
fascinated
type
me.
of light bulb and where it went.
Yep.
So it was organized by what level
Yep.
of the house, what room of the house, and what kind of light bulb, because that's the kind of autism that Dad and I share. We share that because I enjoy that too. Not that I have the time or patience to do that, but and I don't know when he did doing his job. I don't really know when he had the time or patience to decide that's how he was gonna. He probably made somebody else do it. He just had the idea.
No,
and
I
made somebody
think
else do it.
somebody at one point, was it your mom said to me one time about going to like Menards and getting light bulbs?
Oh my God, all the time. We were at Menards
Yeah.
every Sunday.
Yeah.
Menards was his favorite place. That was our Sunday. Alyssa's shaking her head because Alyssa and I spent more time at Menards and Red Lobster than like any other place growing up. Dad would take us to Red Lobster. We'd drive around, and then we go to Red Lobster and Menards, and that was like what we did on Sundays in our house. Or we went to the movies and ate popcorn, and that was about it. So
Where do you eat popcorn?
the movies, the Roxy.
Oh, yeah.
Dad and I went to the Roxy like every week. You know, they probably had a frequent flyer program because of Dad. Genuinely. And then Alyssa worked there. That was like the best time of my life in high school. She worked there and she'd bring home popcorn that was done for the night. And Dad would come downstairs with a bowl and get a bowl of popcorn and go back upstairs. And she and I would sit in the basement and watch movies. It was wonderful. So anyway, you know, this table especially I think was pretty interesting. It's got some pretty cool history to it. We were the only people who owned it after boys. There was another woman in the middle. Right?
There was what?
Another woman who owned it in the middle of us. I don't remember her name.
Who did your dad say he got it from?
Yeah, I can't remember.
I know, and I can't remember right offhand.
All I remember is that under this, there's two little holes, because she had drilled holes for her candelabras into the table.
Yeah.
And Dad saw that and nearly died. So then he had Mom get this to cover the holes so that could be over it, and then, you know, whatever, put things on it so that you couldn't see it. And then when they went to move it, Mollie was there for the discovery of my artwork and my short artistry career. When I was little, apparently, I remember sitting under this table a lot. I really don't have many other, like I sat under it all the time. I don't really have an explanation for that. I don't know why. I just liked it under there. So I would sit under the table all the time. Sometimes I'd throw a blanket over it and pretend it was a fort. I mean, I assume that's why I did it. But they flipped it to move it, and this table is it's heavy, as you can imagine, because it's one piece, right? So they flipped it to move it, and Mollie looked at me and said, Alexis, did you do that?
I have another piece from your house.
Oh, no. Did I draw on that, too?
No,
Well, that's good.
you hid in it.
Oh, yeah, I did. Yeah, that's a good
Back
story,
there in
too.
the corner.
That's a good story, too. We'll tell that one, too, Mel. That's a really good story. That's a good point. Yeah, Alyssa, see, it's the brown one. That tall brown. It was by the piano, remember? Yeah.
Yeah.
That was right by the piano in the living room. Remember? It was right by the piano. So in the room with the big living room with the piano where we did Christmas, the piano was in the one corner. It was in like right next to it on the other side of that open doorway to the dining room. Yeah, God, yeah, that's a good story too. So anyway, so we flipped this over, and Mollie says, "Is that your artwork?" And I said, and Mom said, Alexis, because nobody ever knew that I drew under it. But I played a lot of games of tic-tac-toe, and I won them all. You'll be happy to know, because I was the only one in my house. We were too far away to have friends up there all the time, and it was just me playing tic-tac-toe by myself, and I won every game. I was really good at it. And then Mollie's pointing to another piece. There's a piece in the corner, a really pretty hutch. It was in our living room. I think I spent most of my life staring at that thing while I was playing violin, hoping that my practice time was over for playing violin for that day. I really liked violin, but I hated the practice time every day. It really made me mad. Like, it made me mad that I had to play for 20 minutes. Like, I think if they had just been like, you have to practice at some point, it would have been fine. But it
20
was
minutes is all?
20 to 30 minutes. Well, I played like 4 instruments. So it was 20 minutes on each.
Real? Oh.
Oh, so I was annoyed
That's
by
a
the time
different
I,
story,
I was
yeah.
annoyed by the time I was so sick of it by the time I was done. And violin I was pretty natural at. Like, I just was pretty good at it. So I was like, why am I doing? I'm good at this. I don't need to do this right now. I
Sufficient,
did
right?
need to do it, but
Sufficient.
but I was fine. I was done. But anyway, so I spent most of the time staring at this hutch. But the story that Mollie's telling, or that was talking about, is I was, I don't know, 2 maybe, and we decided we were going to play hide and seek, and I went in there to nap. Didn't tell my parents that, 1, I was not playing hide and seek, and 2, or 1, that I was playing hide and seek. I didn't tell them that. I was playing by myself. Hence the tic-tac-toe. I was playing by myself and decided I was going to play hide and seek, but I got inside the hutch. It has a small door at the bottom. Not very big. It's not a large space. You definitely would not think a kid could get into it, I think is a fair assumption. And I got into it and fell asleep. And my parents looked for me all over the house and couldn't find me.
They were
And
panicked.
And called the police. And finally I came out. So.
Were you in trouble?
I don't really know. I was pretty little. I'm sure Mom was pissed. I know Mom well enough to know Mom was mad. I think Dad probably laughed. I couldn't really, there was not much I could do to make Dad genuinely mad.
Oh, yeah.
It really took a lot for Dad to be mad at me about anything. Dad pretty much just giggled off most of the things I did, You know, they don't toss that favorite word around much, but I was definitely the light of his life, is all I'm going to say, even over Mom, I think, but that's fine. And one thing I want to say, and I've said this to you, I think, but when Dad died, nobody else did anything to honor him or here, except for you. And I'm going to cry saying this to you because I love you, and I've thought about this so many years and I haven't been able to see it because, grief is stupid. But thank you for being the only one to acknowledge him when he passed.
Oh, no. I liked your dad. I like,
He loved you too, and I do too. But
I appreciate that.
But it meant a lot to me. When I came in here, you were doing the war exhibit too.
Oh.
The World War II exhibit,
Oh,
which
yeah.
was really cool. That was a really neat exhibit in here because you could see, she had pictures of everybody who had served who was here and a little bit of background about them. And she had her dad up too in that. That was really neat to see too. And I have his.
Your grandpa.
Grandpa too, yeah.
Yeah.
I have his stuff in the office. I don't know if
Yeah, I
you've
know
seen
you
that.
do.
Yeah, I channeled my inner Mollie and made my own little history display in the office of World War II memorabilia for my family. So I've got all that in there, and I have,
We do a veterans exhibit in November.
yeah.
Jim and Joe Ferrero's mom was
Yeah,
Marina,
yeah.
and she kept scrapbooks from all the newspaper clippings for World War II vets. She had 7 scrapbooks full,
Oh my gosh.
and we've been doing one a year, and we're up to book number 5 this year.
That's so neat.
And Elaine, the gal that's in there now, she's doing scanning and stuff for that.
I love that.
And we put them alphabetical, each one we scan.
I love that. You know, Jim and Joe's grandpa, I believe, also came here with my grandpa. They were friends. Either they came
Who?
together, Jim and Joe's grandpa. Their dad, not grandpa, their dad would have come here or was here around the same time as Mo and my grandpa came over from Italy. And they were really good friends. And I didn't know that until I was old enough to go in there. And then they figured out who I was. And he was telling me all about my grandpa, things I never heard. Grandpa Dominic was friends with their dad. So he was telling me all about him and growing up with him and what he was like. And it was pretty neat. But most of Ottawa is tied that way if you start talking to people.
Yeah.
About, it's a lot of Italians who all came over and kind of ended up in the same place here. And or a lot of families that had 9 or 10 kids, and now everybody's families just sort of, intermarried, and now are, like I have 1,000 cousins here. I have no idea who they are, but but we have 1,000 cousins.
Currently, our new exhibit that we have is back in about 1930. the state of Illinois came through and they were redoing bridges.
Yeah.
And they did a new bridge here in Ottawa. They did one in Marseilles, and they did one in Seneca. And this was right around the same time. And somebody came to me years ago and said, the I&M Canal Museum thing, they had a series of books, photograph books, 8x10 photographs,
Yeah.
and they had one about the Hilliard Bridge being constructed through all different phases. So they said that this Lockport Museum was looking to get them to somebody else because it wasn't really Lockport history.
Right.
So Chris and I went and we picked up the book for the Ottawa Bridge, the Hilliard Bridge, and the Marseilles Bridge. So we have a new bridge exhibit that's up now that features all the bridges that were over the Illinois.
Yeah.
At one point, well, when the old lateral canal, the canal's a block up the street.
Yeah.
That was the I&M, and it goes east and west.
Right.
Ottawa dug what they call the lateral or the old side cut canal that goes north and south.
Yeah.
And it went right down Canal Street. We're sitting on the old lateral canal.
Yes.
So all along here, there was factories.
Yep.
They made Ottawa.
Yep.
The canal made Ottawa.
Yeah.
So there's all these factories along here. And across every cross street, there was a bridge. And the canal was used for a number of years, and then along come the railroad, pretty much put the canal out of business.
Yeah.
So they ended up filling in the streets and everything. But during the Depression, the gentleman who was mayor at that time was called Hubert Hilliard.
Oh, yeah.
And the Depression years, he put together a program where people that didn't have jobs, didn't have any money, there were no jobs for men.
Yeah.
But he set up like a lottery system where people could come along, guys could sign up for the lottery, and their names would be drawn. And say it was winter, or winter was coming on, Johnny Jones's name was drawn. Okay, you got a week. Go dig in the bed of the canal and get coal. That's your heat for the winter. And guys who had extra time volunteered to do for ladies who were by themselves and didn't have anybody.
That's so neat.
And then if they weren't doing that, then they would give them other jobs. Like then they got to the point where they were filling in the canal.
Yeah.
And so the reward for that was he set up a company store, like kinda. And all the churches and organizations in town would put food and stuff in there, and you didn't get money, but you got X number of dollars to go to the commissary and get food
whatever
or
you
whatever.
needed.
But that was all Hubert Hilliard put that together.
That's
So
pretty neat.
when the state came along and they were going to replace the old bridge, they had a design for the bridge. It was humps, and he didn't like that.
Yeah.
So he
Oh,
lobbied.
he was right. That would have been terrible.
Yeah, he lobbied with them to do the shape that the Hilliard Bridge ended up being. So they named the bridge after him.
Yeah,
So there's an
beautiful.
extensive set of like 20-some pictures of the construction of the Hilliard Bridge. And here about 2 months ago, his grandson, John Hilliard, was down in Lexington, Kentucky, and he called. He said, I have a model ship that my grandpa made,
Oh, neat.
and I'm moving and I need to downsize. Would you like it? I said, absolutely.
Neat.
So he ended up, we couldn't find anybody to go down to get it. He ended up renting a van thing to bring it to us. So it's on exhibit here in the case, and
So
Hubert Hilliard
neat.
made it.
That
And
is
then there was
so
a
neat.
gentleman who taught drafting at the Ottawa High School, and he came in a couple of weeks ago and he said, I got these plans, I made this boat, nobody wants it, do you want it? So there's a
It's beautiful too.
Creole Queen paddle boat on exhibit too, so that's a cool piece.
Yeah, that is
Kind
a
of
cool
fell in
piece.
together, you know?
That's beautiful. The ship on the other side is gorgeous.
Yes, it is.
That's gorgeous.
There's a picture of his grandson putting it into the water at Green Bay, Wisconsin.
Neat.
Cool stuff.
It is cool stuff. There's cool stuff everywhere here. Tell me what your favorite exhibit is.
Oh. Favorite exhibit.
I knew that was going to be a hard question.
Well,
Molly loves every piece of
there's
history.
I was showing Alyssa before we got started. I have a thing about the old homes,
Yeah.
and then I have a thing about Judge John Dean Caton.
Yep.
I think this man never did anything half measures or anything, but At one point, he got approached by some gentleman who wanted to put in the first telegraph company in Illinois. So they set up the Illinois-Mississippi Telegraph, and they made him president. So he became a telegrapher, and he had a telegraph thing in his office.
That's pretty neat.
In his home up on the North Bluff.
Yeah.
He put in a telegraph factory here in town.
I did know that.
Yeah, he had the telegraph factory. And in April of 1865, about 9:30 in the evening, he was still up. Most of the rest of the family had went to bed, but he was up, and I don't know if he's in his office or what, but all of a sudden he heard the click, 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 click. There's a message coming in on the telegraph. So he got up and went. Lee has surrendered. The war is over. And he was the first to receive it at his house up on the North Bluff.
That is so cool.
He was so excited. He ran next door to his neighbor, Lorenzo Leland, and told him. They ran next door to Judge T. Lyle Dickey, and they were all so excited because they'd all been involved in the war.
Right.
So they decided they would set up bonfires that people should know the war is over. So they had 3 big bonfires up on the North Bluff. And then pretty soon word got downtown. All of a sudden the church bells are ringing.
No.
This is 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. It's dark.
This is so neat.
And the church bells are ringing, and then John Hosick, who has the house up on the South Bluff,
Yep.
he was a noted abolitionist,
Yep, sure was.
and he put a bonfire at his house. So you got 2 bluffs, north and south, and all the people congregating downtown.
I think that history of the abolitionist movement that actually, like, strangely, you don't really get taught about in school here. How much of the abolitionist movement ran through Ottawa specifically. Like, we really didn't get taught much about that in school, and it's pretty cool that we had a stop.
Well, here's the thing. We are doing historical documentaries now.
Yeah.
We did our first one on the life and death of William Hervey Lamb Wallace, who was a very brigadier general during the Civil War. And he had a home up on the North Bluff.
He was
the son-in-law to T. Lyle
His
Dickey.
horse is out there, too. His horse is buried up there, too.
Yes, it is. Yes, he is.
Yes.
Prince is there.
Yes.
So we did a documentary on him, and right now we are getting ready to release our second documentary, which is about John Hosick,
Neat.
who was a noted abolitionist.
Yeah.
And he is the gentleman who, the John Hosick and the runaway slave Jim Gray,
Yep.
how he spirited him and some of his friends, they spirited Jim Gray out of the courthouse downtown.
Yep.
He got away to freedom.
Yep.
They were arrested for that. They were sent to Chicago, had a trial in the whole 9 yards. So our documentary for that we'll be showing that starting July the 6th.
I really like that. I like that there's so many, I talk a lot about, like, what Ottawa is like now and how people are still it's very help each other out, right? People here are very protective. They are always standing up for, I think most people here are standing up for what's right most of the time. And I think that's a history here. I don't think it's just now. I think that's been our history, for a long time. Maybe just people don't realize that there have always been leaders of revolution and industry and, of doing what's right and when it's illegal or based on whatever laws are in place. They've always lived here. A lot of really great minds have come from here. So it's pretty neat to see all of it in person because there's so many of the things here that they owned or, photos of things they built.
Yeah.
And it's pretty cool to go through all of that here.
Ottawa's got a remarkable history.
It does.
I know communities that have hired people to come in and do research on their town, trying to find things that they could share as a tourism, and we've got it all. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Well, yeah, that's because of you, though. This place is
Oh, I don't know.
incredible here, Mollie, because you put so much heart and effort into it.
Well, Dorothy Clements came before
Oh,
me.
I love Dorothy, too.
Dorothy Clements and David Mumper. David Mumper's forgot more than I'll ever know. That's a serious thing. When he's my go-to guy. Hey, Dave.
Yeah, I have a lot of good memories. I mean, Dad brought me here. I assume because you were here and he loved you. So I assume that's why we came here. But I remember coming here as a kid and walking through I remember walking through the scouting exhibit, and I remember being stuck on the canoe in the wall. Like I was like I wouldn't move, and Dad was like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "I just want to know how they got it up there." He was like, "I don't know, probably a ladder. Can we go on and look at something else?"
You
I
know,
would not leave that canoe on the wall for like 20 minutes. I
that
thought it was
canoe's
so
got an interesting story. We used to have in the scout wing of the museum, we used to have a platform that was like a scout camp out thing.
Yeah.
And the canoe was donated by a father-in-law of one of the girls I graduated from high school with. And so the canoe was down on the floor at that time, and this scoutmaster came in one day, and he's walking through there, and he walked over and he looked at that canoe, and he said, "You know, this is an old town canoe." I said, "Oh, yeah?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "You know how I know that?" I said, "No, how do you know that?" He said, "I got one at home in my living room." I said, "You do?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "Come here, I want to show you something." So he come over and he said, "See right down here?" And in the one end of that canoe, there were numbers.
Yeah.
And he said, "Write them down." So I wrote them down. He said, "Now, you go online to Old Town Canoe, and you send them that serial number, and they'll give you the history of that canoe."
Oh, that's neat.
I sent the email, and I got it back, and they said it was built in 1942, and it was a such and thus model number, and it had been sold in Chicago to so and so it's all in the little history of it.
That's so neat.
It was cool from a
That's so
visitor.
neat.
From
Yeah.
a visitor.
Somebody taught you something.
See, that's a cool thing.
Yeah.
Because when we had just the scouting wing, we used to have the docent desk in that room.
Yeah.
And people would come in and they'd walk through, and I was sitting there one day working on something. There was a lady that came in. She's walking along and she said, "Elsie Hoxton. I remember Elsie Hoxton." And that's the thing about the scouting end of it.
Yeah.
Because people can relate to it because either they were a scout or they knew someone who was.
Well, everybody here does scouting. I mean,
There you go.
given where we are, everybody does scouting.
Yeah.
I never got to do Girl Scouts. I was really mad about it. Dad never signed me up and told me I was too busy.
That surprises me because he was interested
I know,
in scouting.
He loved scouting
Yeah.
stuff. But I don't think he was ever a Boy Scout either.
But he was always interested in scouts.
Yeah, I think he always wanted to be one.
Yeah.
I think he always had wanted to do Scouts, but Grandma and Grandpa didn't have the money.
Well, that could be.
So they couldn't afford to put him in it. And I think that just always stuck. He always wanted to be in Scouts. He loved them. We search at, we walk that, the land up here every Sunday. We walk that land and look for arrowheads and all kinds of stuff. I mean, he and I spent so much time in the woods.
There's some other cool pieces in the scout side. There's a gentleman who was in here years ago, and him and I talked, and he was from Indiana, and he said, "I got a big scout collection, but I'm not ready to get rid of it yet, but I'll be back." Well, I've forgotten,
Yeah.
But he came back about 2 years ago, and he said, "I'm ready to give it up now." And I said, "Okay." And he said, he told some of the things he had. One of the things he had, he said, was a 2010 Lionel train set that was for the anniversary of the Boy Scouts.
Oh, that's pretty
And he
neat.
said some other stuff he had, and he said, "I'll bring the first load, honest to God." He said, "On such and thus a date." I said, "Bring the train." He said, "Okay." I had wanted a train ever since we opened.
Yeah.
And he brought that train, and you got to go see
I'll
it
have to
before you
see it
go.
before I go.
It runs 2 minutes and 22 seconds and then shuts down, but it's cool.
That's so cute.
And one of the other things that he brought was a frame. And the Boy Scouts of America do a national jamboree every 4 years.
Yep.
And in 1953, their jamboree was in Irvine, California. And there's a frame in there with a little kid from Illinois who went to the jamboree that year. And his little, they have a little, like a diary, a jamboree diary where they could make notes in it.
Yeah.
And then there was a little photograph album to put small pictures in.
Yeah.
And this kid's name and stuff in it. This kid was 13 years old in 1953 when he went to the jamboree.
Yeah.
His name was James Brady. He grew up to be press secretary to Ronald Reagan.
Well, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
So that's the cool thing about James Brady.
That's pretty neat. So tell me, I know
We're
you've
money
been trying
ahead.
to expand the museum for many years. I remember when I first came home, we got put on the board to talk about expanding the museum and how we were going to do that.
Well, we're trying to raise money. The city of Ottawa has a 1922 fire truck, American LaFrance,
Yeah.
that's in storage waiting. We're gonna exhibit it. But we don't have a door big enough to get it in, and we don't have a place big enough to
put it.
exhibit it. So we're trying to raise money with the intent to expand the building north and west to add on to it. Interestingly enough, we're talking about the old homes on the bluff. The very first fire that truck went to was the Simeon Gay's house.
Really?
Yeah,
With the steps.
With the-
steps.
no.
it's only cake.
it's the one where Tom Hill used to live, where that.
Oh, yeah.
I've got pictures. That retaining wall was there when Simeon Gay's
Gotcha.
home was there.
I wondered when I was back. You know,
Yeah,
I was too afraid of Tom. As a kid, I was too afraid of Tom to go back there because he'd yell if he saw me over there. So I was too afraid of Tom to go back there. But I always wondered how far back that went or what was
Yeah.
back there. So
but that was the first fire it went to. But part of it is we need money.
yeah.
That's the big part of it.
So how much money do you have to raise for this?
I figured probably $1 to $2 million, I suppose.
Are they working on grants for you though? Through NCICG or anything else?
I'm not aware of any grants. State of Illinois, when I sat on the Illinois Association of Museums Board of Directors, there used to be, the state had grants for bricks and mortar, which is building.
Right, building.
But most all of that stuff was geared for Chicago.
Yeah, I wonder if there is. I'll look into that. There might be something. I just saw something on I'm on that the notification when grants get posted.
Oh, yeah.
I'm on Grant Finder, so I'll look on there today for you. I'll send you
Okay, great.
anything I find.
And I do grants.
I can work on it. Yeah,
I
I've done
know
a couple
how
of
to.
them.
Peg Reagan has got a grant for us for these documentaries that we're doing
Yeah.
that allows us to
Oh.
have Chris Falillo.
Do it.
Chris Falillo, we're doing a concert with Chris Falillo in June
That's neat. Where
at the Abbey.
at the Abbey? I
He's
love
done
that.
it, and you talked about the Underground Railroad. That's what the program is.
Neat.
Songs of Illinois' Road to Freedom.
That's
something like
pretty cool. I love
that. Yeah,
that.
tickets are $10. They're on sale. Seating's limited. You got to get your tickets
Get
early.
your tickets now.
Yep,
Okay.
I just got them entered.
I
I'm
was
gonna
gonna say,
print
can you get them here? Okay. I was
Yep.
just gonna ask. What a good reason to come here. Yeah.
And we do history programs once a month,
Yes. I
and
get
we're
those.
raising that for further expansion of the building.
Do the schools also come through and see all this? Do you get any kids from the schools at this point?
No, We've
What a
tried.
shame.
we've tried, and we can't get them here.
What a shame, because it is, you're growing up in Ottawa. What a cool
Yeah.
way to teach them a piece of Ottawa's history. Why would-
Ottawa's got so much, yeah.
Ottawa, and not just history for here, but history of people who shaped
Who made
industry
this
and
town.
revolution in the
Absolutely.
country. You know, like Radiant Girls history or some of that stuff here too, don't you? A
Yes.
little bit of that. I have some dad stuff from when he represented girls at the office.
Oh, that's cool.
I have some
Really?
dad stuff. She said, "That's good for mom
You
to
know,
come into my
it's-
office."
People that come here from out of town, they're looking for the radium gun.
Yeah, I'm sure.
They're very interested in that.
Yeah.
And we have talking about Lincoln, because Lincoln was here in town a number of times.
Yeah.
The
Quite a
Lincoln
bit.
Douglas debates, we have a dress that was actually worn by a lady at the Lincoln Douglas debates.
That's pretty neat.
It's unbelievable because that dress is black and there's heat.
Yeah, it'd be
August, it
miserable.
was hotter than Hades. I can't imagine
Yeah. No,
how
I'm
hot
sure.
that would have been.
Yeah, I'm sure it was miserable to wear those
Yeah.
stupid dresses.
Yep.
Be that out of them. And the fabric wasn't like that. It wasn't
No.
like you were wearing,
No.
cotton or whatever. You
No.
were wearing probably polyester or something pretty thick.
We have the dress, and LaSalle County Museum has the carriage that Lincoln rode.
Yep, I've seen that.
Yeah,
I've seen
and
that.
it's interesting about the museums because several years ago, I invited every museum in the county to come together here.
Yeah.
And we've been meeting quarterly every year since then.
I love
We've
that.
done a number of programs together. We do our passport program every February, and when we started doing the Hasek documentary about the Underground Railroad, we invited the Mendota Museum because did you know that the Hickok, Mr. Bill Hickok's family, they were abolitionists?
I did know that.
So Alex Rutten is in our documentary. David Reed from the Streeterland Museum is in our documentary, and Utica is represented. There's a lady who did some extensive work on the Eversols, who were noted abolitionists, and then Lorraine McAllister and I worked on the Vlasic part of that documentary. So it's a county involvement with that one, which makes me very pleased.
That's pretty cool. I'd like to go. I have not. That's another reason I haven't gone to since they've opened it is the at Utica. Now I've been to this total museum 1,000 times. I mean, every event I had growing up, I went to church. I went to church out there, so we were there all the time for everything. But the Grain Elevator Museum, I haven't been to, and I would really like to go because my grandpa ran that. Mom's dad ran that for 45 years. He ran the Utica Grain Elevator. In fact, he's the one who constructed or who came up with the plan for the current grain elevator as it stands there that they just retired after the tornadoes. He was the one who came up with that. So I would really like to go see what's in there. Plus, they redid the store, so it looks like the store is what I was told. I'd really like to see that.
That's a really cool museum, and Amanda, that is the director over there, she's amazing and so willing to help and so willing to share. But out of the monthly lectures that we've been doing here at the museum relating to local history, and with this museum group that we put together, we got invited to do a series of fall classes at IV on local history. So we've done that 2 years. We're coming up on the third year to do some local history, non-credited classes. But the attendance for those has been pretty good. And we have an organizational meeting for that on Monday for the fall.
That's pretty neat.
Yeah. The college,
Maybe you should let like anybody take any class of any age. Is there major requirements now or what? Can you bring a kid?
I suppose you could, but nobody has brought a child so far.
Pretty cool to take your kid to a little Lance and
It's a cool thing. It's a cool thing. Yeah.
So tell me the thing you are most hoping for in the future other than the expansion.
I need to get this building expanded. My scout collection has grown exponentially.
Yeah, you've got
two. He brought two. and I got a dedicated group of scout guys that come once a month and they take care of the scout wing. They come from Bloomington, Henry, Peru, Normal. They meet here once a month and they go through and they make new exhibits. They just posted some new exhibits in there Thursday. It's cool. Them guys are dedicated. And here, Dan Schott helps me a lot. And Roy is one of my docents, is part Native American, and he helps a lot around here. I got dedicated people.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that. They laugh at me. Honest to God, they give me, somebody will come along and say something. What was it the other day? Dr. Manigault did one of our lectures a couple of weeks ago, and he did it on the Daniel Cemetery and the cholera epidemic. And one of the gentlemen that he had working with him when it was all done, he had done such a good job. And I went up and I said, "You really did a great job. I appreciate that." And he said, "Oh, thank you." I said, "When are you going to come and do something for me?" He said, "I've been thinking about that."
I guess now. So that's my favorite. It's all my favorite Mollie thing I've ever. I mean, I've seen you 1,000 times in places where I think people maybe. I think this is why Dad liked you so much too. So I think there have been times in Mollie's life where she's walked into a room and people have underestimated what Mollie's going to do. I think there have probably been 1,000 times that people have underestimated how Mollie will react to them because Mollie is, so cute. And it's like, you're just so cute. And I have seen people speak to you in ways just like condescendingly. And I've watched you like end them instantly. And it's probably my favorite thing I've ever watched. I'll never forget there was a city council meeting. I was young, so I was like 18. And it wasn't the current council, but I was like 18. And I remember they were sitting and you were asking for something for the museum. And they sort of brushed you off in a kind way. They kind of brushed you off. And you were like, no, that's not going to work. And you just struck back up and went back to it. And I'll be danged if you didn't get what you needed.
I don't remember. I don't remember.
You got what you needed because you just were persistent and you never allowed somebody to tell you no when it was something that needed to be done to preserve history here, to grow this place and to make it better here. And I think that that's why Dad liked you so much, because you always used your unwillingness to give up to make sure that this place was better and lit up.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
I always liked it because I got to see it. It was cool to see another woman stand up there and go, no, we're not. And unfortunately, that's not the answer we're willing to accept today. We're going to try again. Until things got worked out. But because of that, look at the beautiful nature of this place and, the cool exhibits we have. And I think, your love for history and the love of the history of everybody who's been here, worked here, and donated here has really built something beautiful.
It's kind of funny because it's like right place, right time, and it's like the thing with the documentaries that kind of grew.
Yeah,
Skip Hupp, he's interested. He does videography and he videotapes all my monthly lectures, and so he and Dan Henningsen had done a documentary about the paintings in the park.
Yeah.
So when they got done with that, Skip said, I like doing that documentary. I'd like to do more, but I don't know what we're doing. And I said, tell you what, how about William Herbert LeMay Wallace? I said, you'd have all the Civil War buffs. Well, yeah, that's how that got started.
Yeah, it's pretty.
And then we're on to Hossack now and the Jim Gray story. And I'm lobbying for the next one to be on Caton. Because he did so much. I mean, the Elk Park, the Mormons, and all that
history that most people don't know existed.
Yeah.
Came to be here.
Yeah.
I know that history because Dad told me about it, but I know most people
don't. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's some really neat things here to talk about.
Yeah.
And I think the way the town is growing and changing, I think that there will be even more kind of new and revolutionary things that are happening here. For some of the people who are trying to create change here too. So,
well,
more to exhibit forever.
But it's kind of funky too, because most of the history, young people aren't interested in. I think you got to be a certain age. I think you got
raised by a 90-year-old, maybe.
Hmm?
Or raised by a 90-year-old.
That could be too.
I do have a lot of habits and hobbies that are not of my age, and don't give me that mouth.
Yeah, but that's
you got a bingo on Mondays, you know what I mean?
But you know what? That's a gift that your dad gave you, Alexis.
Yeah, it is.
Your dad was interested in history.
Well, he loves history. Well, history, for him, the reason I think Ottawa meant so much to him, and the reason that Ottawa history meant so much to him, is Ottawa is what gave his parents a chance.
Yeah.
My grandpa had a 3rd grade education. My grandma had an 8th grade education. Here, my grandpa's 3rd grade education was in Italy, so pretty rough on the writing. I can tell you that. I tried to read it the other day, even in Italian. I was like,
"You read Italian?"
I can not. Listen, you want to hear a good listen to the fashion? Here's a good one. Here's a good dad story. So Dad never learned Italian because obviously both my grandparents were immigrants, right? And they wanted very much for him to be American. That's I think why Ottawa has such a place for him, right? Is this place gave them their start, it gave them their life, the chance at all their livelihoods, and those livelihoods provided a way for him to get through school and go to law school and college and everything else, right? And gave him the opportunities that gave him to become who he was and set case law and do all the things here. But he was talking about during What's My Train of Thought, when they're talking about
Italian.
Okay. No, wait, what?
Speaking Italian, reading Italian.
Sorry, okay. Yeah, right. Okay, so they never taught him because they were too proud to be American, right? So he only knew Italian and cuss words because that's the only time they spoke Italian in front of them was to fight. So he only knew the cuss words until the day he died. He took me when I was, I don't know, 5, maybe 6. he got us private lessons at IVCC with the Italian teacher to tutor Italian, to teach us both Italian. That was our thing. We were gonna go. We went. It was once a week, and we would do Italian lessons, and I still have the workbook. It's on my nightstand, and I would do the workbook and take the homework back and whatever. So I was learning Italian. Well, we went for, I don't know, Mom can tell you exactly how long we went, but it wasn't very long because I was doing better than him and he got mad, so we had to quit. And that's as long as I went to Italian classes until I was in college. And then I dropped out. I minored in Spanish too, Spanish and business. I had enough classes to get a minor in it. And I ended up picking up Italian too because I wanted to learn Italian. I wanted to finish it. So I can understand, I can speak a little bit. It's not great, but my ancestors would be disappointed at the amount that I speak. But I can understand it pretty well. But yeah, that's how I learned to speak Italian. Is Dad took me until I got better than him, and then he got mad, and then we quit.
I could see that.
He did not like.
I could see that.
Did not like.
Yeah.
But somewhere, I'm sure all my ancestors were thrilled when I was learning. The other thing I think you'll get a kick out of that I found that you probably would like. The Orsini girls, my dad's mom.
Who?
My dad's mom.
Linda.
All her sisters, they all had taverns here, right?
Yeah.
So they all had chicken and ravioli taverns. Like basically that's what they made, chicken and tortellini, right? And they all had a version of tortellini that they made. And for years and years and years, I never had Grandma Linda's tortellini recipe. She had given it, well, there's a story about somebody thought she gave it to him, and she didn't. I don't think she liked them, so she didn't really give it to him. She gave them the pasta recipe, and that's all they got. But out the filling, that's obviously the batters, right? I mean, she'd probably disagree with that because pretty much all that matters. But I couldn't buy the filling for years and years and years, and Nello passed, and I did never think to ask Nello for it before he passed, and so I messaged his granddaughter a couple of years ago, speaking of family history stuff, and I said, "Hey, do you have any of the family recipes for tortellini?" Because that would have been my grandma's. Nello was her nephew, right? So, my dad's first cousin. I said, "Do you have any of the sisters' recipes?" And she was like, "Yeah, I've got my grandpa's, which is his mom's, right? That'd be Teresa." And I think she had a restaurant in Newfleet. Her tavern was in Newfleet, I think. And my other Lena, her tavern was now Woody's, where Woody's tavern. That's where she was. And Grandma it became Louisiana, but it was Linda's when Grandma had it, right there on the outskirts. Yeah, that was Grandma's before it became Louisiana and then got torn down. But so I got that was where Linda's was, and then they had the grocery store on the west side too.
Which grocery store?
It looks like a house now, as far as I know. Somebody's living.
Your dad used to have files in there.
You got it.
You got pictures of that?
I do. I got pictures.
Do you? I'm doing a thing on grocery store.
I do. I got pictures of it and the bar that was on the other side.
Will you send me the picture?
Absolutely. I will.
I thought about that house because your dad used to send me down there to get files.
Yep,
I remember.
You're sure.
I'm sorry.
Anyway, so we were talking. No, I lost the train of thought. Dang it.
We're talking about the recipe.
So I've been trying to find it for years, couldn't find it. And, I pretty much gave it up. And I messaged her, and she sent me. She goes, "Yeah, I got grandpa's. I'll send it. It's great. She goes, my great grandma Teresa's." I was like, "That's fine." So she sent me what she thought was Teresa's, and sure enough, the top of the page it said Linda. So I have grandma. It says Linda's tortellini. So I have grandma's.
Have you made it?
Listen, no. I'm mostly afraid I'll hear her yelling at me from beyond, You're not doing that right. And also some of the measurements I think are questionable. I was looking at it and I was like, what?
Well, let me tell you about recipes, though. The old recipes.
Yeah.
My mother used to make the best chocolate cake. And so Mumper loves chocolate. So I thought I'd make this chocolate cake for one of the lectures that we were doing. Well, I went and I got she used to use Baker's squares of chocolate.
Yeah.
When I made it to come out okay, but it didn't really taste like Mama's cake.
Yeah.
And I think what the difference is Ma used to make it using the chocolate squares,
Yeah.
and they're not the same size.
So they're smaller.
They're smaller, and I didn't use enough, I think. So old recipes
So that's what I was thinking. Is I wonder if like some of the things that are on this, I'm like, is that really that much? It feels like a lot. Am I reading this right?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna try it. I want to try it with Sophie. That's my I want Sophie and I to try to do it
That'd be cool.
and try to make tortellini together. There's a neat lady and she's so nice. We got one of our goats from her, but she's in Paw Paw, but she's got a bakery where you can go and rent the you can like essentially rent the bakery, and she teaches you how to make tortellini.
Oh, really?
Teaches you how to roll them and make them and fill them and everything else. So
We should take your recipe.
Well, I did a class there, and I thought, man, I might have to call her the first time I make these and see if she'll.
Where's
If I
she
break
at?
the filling, if she'll help me make them.
Where's she at?
She's right downtown.
Oh, really?
Well, it's called 8 Acres Bakery.
I love your post about the farm.
Oh, I love my farm. My favorite thing I've ever done. You know, and Dad would have loved it.
Yeah, you would have. I think about him a lot when I see stuff.
You would have loved it. Dad would have loved it.
Yeah.
Mom said she never saw me having a farm, and it was like, I don't know what universe you were living in. I asked her a horse my whole life. You told me no. Dad was trying to buy me a horse. Molly, you were probably there when Dad was trying to buy me the horse.
I did the typing.
I think that's my like running joke as I laugh. I think that's how Dad tries to say hello to me from beyond. Is I'll find every once in a while I go through the office, Molly. I mean, I've cleaned out a lot of the stuff, right? And I've gone through Dad's back office and cleaned out a lot of the stuff. But randomly, every once in a while, a horse thing shows up. Like I'll get like a magazine from 1994, horses, or like a random memo that I'm sure you typed that it's Dad trying to convince Mom to get me a horse.
Yeah.
Every once in a while. See, he was him. You know what? That's so endearing. Even for me out of the grave, I'm like, all right, Dad. It's Janice's fault. I get it. It's Janice's fault I didn't have a horse. No, I understand. He's just trying to make sure I know that, I bet.
There was a dispute, I think.
Yeah, there was definitely a dispute. She told him he'd have to live in the barn when he built that barn. I don't know if she ever told you that story.
No, she didn't.
He fenced in the ravine. You know, he put that fence up around the ravine down there. And then he built the barn. But he did it in several years. So he fenced in the ravine one year. And the next year he built that barn, the big red barn, which was definitely a horse barn. There's no doubt that there were stalls being put into that barn. That's exactly what that was built for, with a hayloft upstairs. It's 100% what it was. That man built it, and then she figured out what he was doing and told him that he would be sleeping in the barn if he got me a horse. And then I never got a horse, and the barn became a barn for storage. So I think it's her own fault, because if she had let me have the horse, we wouldn't have had to clean out that barn. So that's her own fault.
Well, you know, I wondered about the table.
Yeah.
How he came to the decision to give it to us.
When we were talking before, so when they were up there, Mom and Dad were talking about, you know, downsizing, because it was a lot. It's a lot to take.
Yeah.
You know, 60 acres is a lot to take care of. And Mom and Dad had been talking about downsizing for, you know, a couple of years, getting something smaller here in town and, you know, a little bit easier, because at that point his hip was pretty bad and he was having trouble walking. So we had talked about donating, you know, whether the table would go with them or not. And Dad and Mom were laughing because they were like, what house will we ever have again where this table fits in a room comfortably? I mean, it's a huge table.
Yeah, it is.
Podcast. I mean, my wingspan is not very big. It's 5'6", but this table has got to be 10 foot long.
Yeah.
Maybe 12. I mean, it's huge. So Dad was laughing. He was like, we're never going to have a house that fits this comfortably again. I mean, we don't need a house. Quite frankly, we don't need a house that fits this comfortably in a room again.
Well, they redid the garages up there to accommodate this table.
That's why, yes.
Yeah.
So the rooms where this was originally in our family room. That's where Molly took it from too. It's where it was moved out of. It was in our family room because there was no other space in the house that really. The living room probably would have fit it, but it would have looked funny in that room. So they fixed up our garages. They laid down wood flooring in the garages, the original garages of the home, and made the garages into like an entertainment area with this table and chairs, and then he had a projector TV in there that he watched football on religiously on Sundays. Nobody was allowed to talk in that room. So this and the football table or the football room were the same place, and he was talking about how they couldn't move and take this somewhere, and when they were making the decision to donate it or what they were going to do with it, he said, Mollie, I think would like this for the museum. And Mom and I both agreed. You know, he sat us both down and asked us what we thought. We all had a family discussion about it. And he asked me if I would ever want it. And I said, I don't know where I would ever put it either. At that point, I was living on Emerald Drive. And I said, I don't know where I would ever fit this in my house, if I'm being honest. Maybe in the basement, but I'm not at the stage in my life where this table could live in my house safely. There are too many babies in my house right now running through between all my nieces and nephews and, you know, for everybody else. So it's just not a safe time for me to have that table. So we decided we would donate it back to the museum so I can be here with you because
I'm so glad you did.
need to take care of this. And now everybody gets to share a piece of this table
Yeah.
that has spent. I have 1,000 memories at this table, good memories at this table, you know, and not just, although Dad said he would rather die than play dominoes with me at this table. That's a direct quote. You could catch him dead before he played the game of dominoes. That's the exact quote he said to Alyssa and I when we asked to play dominoes, Grandma and Mom at the table. But I have a lot of good memories sitting at this table playing dominoes right here, actually. That's what I see. We played dominoes at this table for many years and 65 and cards, and that's how we spent all of our time.
Well, it's kind of funky because I was working for your dad when he got this table. And like I said, I've been up to the house and took dictation on it. And then years after I had left, the Boyce family come along with this picture. And I almost shit when I seen the picture.
Table in it, yeah.
And I sent a copy of it to your dad. And I said, I thought you might be interested to see your table sitting in the Boyce home.
So neat. And you know, like I said, Dad always really wanted. He's very into scouting stuff. He liked the history of the Scouts and the history of Ottawa and the Scouts.
Yeah.
And Dad was big into the history of Ottawa. And I really enjoy not only the history that it provided for them. I mean, they used it. They did not use it as the way we used it, which I think is interesting.
No, if you look at this one here,
Yeah.
you're looking from the other side of the table on that couch that you can see, looking back towards.
Yeah.
And there's the doors.
Yeah, they used it as sort of like a back
Mhm.
into their couch.
Yeah.
They used it as-
That's kind of the fashion now.
Yeah, right. But this is a huge table.
Yes,
That
it
house
is.
must have been monstrous.
Yeah.
I think every time I look at that picture in this couch,
It's got how many cushions?
yeah,
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
yeah.
5 or 6.
And you gotta think that's
Yeah.
like a 12-foot couch. It's
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's interesting the history of this table. It's had a lot of different lives. You know, it served as sort of like it just was a decoration piece in that home.
Yeah.
And the home, it was their central dining table. The next home I went to, that woman's home, table there. And then at our house, it was the family table. Like this is where we all sat, not to eat, but like, you know, I played the first IBM computer my parents had. I played that at the end of this table. I played Doom on that for hours when I was little. Like, but you know,
But it was made here in Ottawa too, and that's fascinating if you look at the intricate work on it.
oh, it's this, and maybe we should get some up close to this before we leave. But the table is beautiful.
Yeah.
The intricacy of the work on this is beautiful, which is not surprising because it came from the piano factory, and there's beautiful pieces, beautiful piano.
Yeah.
There's some really beautiful. The artwork on this is incredible.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful piece, but I think it's most interesting because it lived so many lives. This table has been a central part of a lot of different types of lives. I think that's pretty cool. But I'm glad it's living here.
So am I.
It's with you. I'm glad you take care of it.
We will.
That's one less thing I worry about because I know it's taken care of. So that was the Ferracuti Files for today. Thank you, Mollie.
Hey, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Come see the
It's
Scouting
nice to
Museum.
visit with you.
I know. Come see the Scouting Museum. Come spend time and learn Ottawa's history.